Okay. I think so. Uh, I think it was that we cut it early, maybe. Even though cutting it early was to keep it from going overtime. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah, it worked pretty well. Hmm.
Whoops, I haven't been talking on the stream. Use the wrong
Oh,
push to talk.
oops.
Yeah, so MA, T1 PDX, kind of weak, unused. Same with Gimbal, UNNs, T3. Excuse me, Jesus. Hiccups. UNN, T3, Tiger, pretty good. Slinger, pretty decent, kinda on the weaker side. T2's better than T1's. Derecho, probably only used once or twice, and the people who did use them liked them.
Yeah.
MCRNs, not really picked. Gladius, classic. T4s, pretty up there.
Did not like the T4s. Or rather, liked them too much. Yeah, the only standout in MA was the T4s. The Gladius are up there, but the T4s make the lasers roll incredibly obvious.
Mm-hmm. T4s are just nuts. They're great for making stab shots. So like burst damage, I guess. Generous field of fire. Gladius Inserter, similar laser from NHI. Mayhem Tiger. Lacking the raw damage or accuracy to challenge T4s. Reduce shield damage or accuracy on a laser. Please buff laser PD. Make T4 even stronger. Wish the T1 gimbals were a little more proactive.
Yeah, the laser PD has been generally underwhelming. I don't know why that is. Maybe because it isn't compared to how much of an LRM volley it can cut down anymore, but rather people are comparing it to how it can take down the ever-prevalent strike craft.
Yep, we'll get to those.
Yep.
Alright, I have an extra entry here. Whoops. For flaw. Railgun 2.0. Just right. Goalkeeper casemate flak battery. Just right, little weak. Phoenix snub fighter.
A lot of the point defense listed too weak.
Yep. Phoenix snub fighter. And this is a strike craft, classified as weak. X4 demolisher. Looks pretty good. Magnus fusion cannon. What's the Magnus? I forgot.
It's basically the Magnetar.
Right.
Right.
Shipwreck heavy cannonade. Solid. Naval LB5X. Solid. Long swords. Bit too good. People who are nuked and the people that use them. Arlo 10X. Yeah, this one's going to be accuracy complaints, tracking complaints. Magnus Magnastars could use. Higher hull damage. Combination of high shield focus and mid-low shot velocity makes them hard to justify against T4s, PPCs, or X4s against cannon craft type or common craft types. Dangerous for hybrid tanks, but not anything particularly fast or heavy. Hybrid assuming brawlers?
Yeah, that's a fair point that they make, where like you look at its role, right? Big heavy turret, slower projectile, strong against shields, weak against hull. It can hit ships that have a lot of hull, and it can't hit ships that rely on the shields. So you'd much rather take lasers to hit the ships that are fast, or anything that's actually good against hull to hit the ships that the Magnus and Magnastar can actually hit. So it just sits in a weird place exclusively because of its design. Its design might not be performing poorly in its role. Its role might just be bad. Thinking about it.
Well, we'll see, especially with the changes to PPCs in Nate's tournament.
And it's being compared to the T4, which was overcooked by all accounts in this one.
X4 is way too tanky for its BP. Recommend
Yep.
increasing price. Maybe a little better turret rotation.
The X4?
Yeah, the X4. Yeah, we'll see. What Nate wants to do with his pack? Balance the LB5X over something that isn't a grid limit.
That's a Max complaint, and that's very, very valid. If you have to balance your weapon by grid limiting it, it's not balanced. You're just slapping a band-aid on. Just make sure its damage and points are at a reasonable scale where you can bring one and be happy, and you can bring spam of them and not be overbearing, right? The only reason grid limits should exist is because of like performance reasons or gameplay reasons as opposed to balance reasons.
Yeah, they'll probably be unlimited for this upcoming one. Like Nate said, they were limited because there's a push too close to the 4.8.2, 4.8.1.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll see. Fighters targeting fighters with open core broke. Did it really?
Haven't seen them do it in a while.
Alright. Stand by. Let's put an end to the speculation.
Because ideally in a game like Battlefleet Gothic or whatever, right? Strikecraft come in two flavors, bomber and fighter, and it's bombers attack ships and fighters attack bombers or screen out other fighters for your bombers.
Actually, no, it does work. I remember
Fighters
testing it like yesterday.
fighters
So
are generally in a gameplay purpose designed to counter bombers,
right.
be air superiority strike craft.
The issue is it's really, really unintuitive. Because you have to go and flip grid targeting it off, and there has to be a enemy bomber within range of the hangar. Then you have to press shoot on, and it might go for it. Well, it will go for it, but it's just like there's an auto launch thing you can do, but that would have to require the entire weapon being turned into like an auto launch hangar because you'd have zero manual control over it.
I think
And
that would be actually ideal. At least a version that's like, if you want this other version, this is the auto launch defensive hangar. You can't launch them offensively. It is just these strike craft will come out and act as point defense for you, and that's it. Because then at least people know what they're buying there, and if that's why they want to bring the strike craft, they can. I think that's actually something to look into. Is if what you're saying is that you can make one that's basically exclusively that, but will definitely work, that's something to look into and test a version of. Because I might take that. So give me a couple snub fighters that are exclusively set to intercept and do nothing else. Hell yeah. Couple snub
alright,
fighters is my point defense now.
I'll write that down. Sometimes it's hard to tell if and or why the fighters and bombers are or are not launching. Sometimes snub fighters launch regularly and reliably. Other times it seems they don't want to shoot. Sometimes cycling targets and relaunching will cause them to finally launch. Other times they just seem stuck. Heat is 0, fire loaded, loss is true. Target is acquired, but hit shoot and they don't always go and keep going.
Yeah, I'm thinking it might be the limit of one as well, where like it's not launching because there's one already out there, but it's impossible to know that. But it is sometimes where like I'll have them set to shoot on or toggle shoot or whatever, and I just have to toggle them off on, and then a bunch of them launch again. It's like, oh, okay. Well, you were waiting for a command even though you were already set to on to go attack grids.
That is probably why. Yep. Alright, noted. Take a look at that.
Bird Gal here can give us some insight into her carrier.
Battle Technologies Imports. BTI. LRM-5. Yeah, okay, kinda weak. MRM, okay, kinda weak. Medium laser. Feeling pretty weak. Painless, meh. Painless, meh. Large laser, it won't compare to the T4. PPC. SRM, pretty much unused. Aero 4, better. ARPPC, a little better. Medium and large laser are borderline identical, and see no reason to take the medium one over the large one. Give her the medium one, then the large one, the fixed laser or something. That's because of Battletech flavor.
Medium and large lasers just existing in Battletech, and so there are both of them. Doesn't need to be.
Yep.
We could just delete one, but it exists because Battletech has them.
Pretty much. LRMs feel bad to use because of minimum range. Yep. And the thing where they all shoot off to the other target that's in range, that does not happen with focus fire on. It'll properly obfuscate itself. It's just a really, really bad user interface. And I probably could fix that. Like a warning that shows warning within minimum range. Oh no.
Yeah, I would much rather it like give me a Windows failure bonk sound and then just drop the command to fire if it can't select a target,
Oh,
as
it
opposed
shoots.
to sit there waiting for a target or fire off and go find something out there.
It still shoots at something else with focus fire on. Nate says, "Huh." All right.
No, I talked to Nate before about this. Something we could solve with the LRMs is making them long range by way of if you give them a long first stage where it's got hardly any turning, so they kind of fly out, lazily try to point themselves back to the target, and then start locking in and turning properly. It's one of those things where like you give, if you're up close, the long range missiles a lazy arc to start getting at their target, such that if you launch them from far away, it doesn't matter, but if you launch them up close, it gives point defense plenty of opportunity to shoot them down, and the opponent plenty of opportunity to notice them and flare them.
Yep, good at that.
We should give the SRMs the LRM damage profile. If we wanted them to be usable.
Alright. Tried testing out the PPC, but the net did not understand how to make them work properly.
The PPC not just a normal fixed gun?
It is. Not sure what they meant by that. Maybe this weird damage profile weirdness. We'll take a look at it when Nate does his rework. Particle update. 40K Manufactorum. Aegis autocannon. Flak turret. Lights macro cannon. Pretty good. Macro cannon. Solid. Light lance. Solid. Gothic torpedo. No real opinion. Macro cannon turret. the non-light version. Pretty good. Fixed lance. Pretty good. All around solid pack, looks like. Heavy macro, heavy macro. Heavy lance, Nova Cannon. Yep, good as usual.
Yeah, the Gothic Torpedo still lagging behind. I've given it plenty of little buffs, but no one's taking it enough to really get a vibe on it.
Yeah, not enough data. I dare say, as I haven't seen anyone use the macro cannon turrets or the heavy macros, the latter has the issue of being huge while otherwise being a bit of a side grade. I suggest increasing the BP and damage of heavy macro flavors and reducing the reload time / BP penalty of the turreted version somewhat. It'd be interesting if the casemated and turreted versions were similar in firepower per BP, but the turrets had lower integrity to compensate. That's an idea. Aegis. Egg.
Neither.
Don't trigger in PD mode, so the PD damage is much lower than expected. This might have been tested during the, when that thing was merged that affected flare targeting, that broke the Erebos.
I don't know what that means.
You know when you flare a missile, it flies off forever?
Yeah.
There's a fix we found for that, where they'll eventually be able to retarget if they have the fuel, and slowly come back around. But that broke Flak, and I just unmerged that, because I don't want to dig through that right now.
Okay.
Background. I'm gonna give 2 fucks about lore accuracy. Nova is too big to be competitive with other fixed guns. Countered with lots of light armor. Countered by being big. Macros feel great. Lances not so much. Torpedoes are just confusing with many ammo types. Aegis needs its flak to work. May have been the need to retest that. Nova Cannon is such a beast, hitting it reliably and getting value from it is tricky, so I think it's an iconic and well-balanced gun in that regard. Massive AoE has a significant impact on ship design. For example, heavy armor is out, and light armor spam is in, because both blocks get one shot. The explosion also goes through blast blades, which seems to defeat their purpose. Is that going to be the pooled thing? Or is that the...
It is. It is not pooled. Yeah, it kills the plate and then keeps going.
Oh.
But
probably makes sense as long as it doesn't literally clip through. Which I thought was happening.
That might be what they're talking about, but I'm not sure. I haven't seen that. Somebody has examples to show me.
Well, that's easy to spot at least. Constes Higaran Procurement. That's the new one. Flak Turret. Pretty weak. Kinetic Gun. Yeah, all their weapons are going to be weak because even though they're originally like survival stats, I copied over from like the Slinger, the T3, the T4, or the T3 onto like their ion cannons, but I guess their rate of fire isn't good enough. Projectile speed. Look at the comments. Big stickouts are the rails, in which I transferred the EXO hangers over from. So let's see the comments on this. Drones didn't really do much, but keep shields hot, but are extremely annoying because they were very loud and never let up. It was very hard to hear comms with the constant noise. Oh, Styrofoam. Are they weak guns? Not much HP? That makes sense.
Yes. Yes, that is true.
That's something I didn't vibe check. Alright. Drones didn't do much. Very hard to hear comms with constant noise. I reduced their sound, their impact sound, by like 10 times and they were still too loud. The audio stacks. Oh. Right, I need that field for the instance. Like the max instances of the sounds playing. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Alright. Everything in this pack except the drones is way too weak, and the drones are just pure annoying cancer. Likely true. Fighter Bay has actually got top damage in a few matches, followed by bombers. Looking at... looking at... Excuse me, sorry. Looking at the chart Nate posted. Yep, pretty consistent damage. The drones are just right after the bomber HP nerf. Regarding the turrets themselves, they seem very underwhelming and shockingly squishy. They have barely any integrity or resistances. Yeah, I did not realize that. That should be fixed. Yeah, for the rest of the... Well, we'll get to that. Onyx Armament Company. Afflictor. Conflicted. Heliod.
Conflictor.
Pretty good. Tumult. Solid. Deimos. Solid. Phobos. A little less solid. Focused Beam. Meh. Magna Star TM. Meh. Forager. Solid. Ares. Eris. Also solid. Tumult does anti-tank things, which is its only job. Let it be good at it. Alright? Afflictor's got top damage when the hangars weren't present.
Yeah. Honestly, people complain about the tumult damage all the time when they fire it at a static wall. And you're right, it's nutty. And then every single time, without fail or exception, that they're brought in like a proper tournament, they either are balanced or underperform.
Hard to hit. The Ares
Yeah.
cannon seems a bit odd because I noticed it seems to hit shields even when the beam seems like it missed. Maybe it's client desync, or maybe I misunderstood the hitboxes, but it looks like you dodged it, but then you notice your shield is suddenly almost gone.
Yeah, that's probably just the rotational desync.
That's just an innate feature of Weapon Core. I have no solutions other than like finding a way to hard sync all rotation, which would also fix the invisible CTC crap, but that's going to take a while. SA, Serpent Arms Company. Erebos. Conflicted. Asterius. Very good. Maybe too good. Ooh. Sylvius. Eh. Somnus. Some too good, some too weak. Hydra. Solid, leaning on too good. Same with the Hellfire. Charon. Perfectly balanced. Cerberus. Less perfectly balanced. Monopole. Okay. Asterius hull damage and Somnus shield damage are nuts, Letter's case especially with the 50% shield penetration and super high velocity. Along with the Heimdall and Apes, Erebus is great PD, also crazy against partially damaged hulls and fluff armor. Sylvius and Cerberus seem to have dropped off quite a bit. They've been the same. Hydra still hasn't been nerfed. Oh no. Monopole weak, question mark. bros. Hydra spam is obnoxious. You did fight Uod with their, 8-12 sequenced Hydra tank?
Mm-hmm.
8.
Didn't
Pretty
actually seem
spooky.
like it that much.
Still a pretty solid pack. No, it's because it cripples you from pretty early on. And we'll get to Nate's proposed changes in a bit. All access ship utilities. Solid rocket booster, SRB. There's no explosion on that, because, terrified of crashes. Don't abuse it. Jetpack. Just right. 3. Afterburner 1x1. Yeah, all afterburners. Classic. Blink drive, 1 too weak. Dampening Hancer, maybe too strong. CTC, a little too strong, we all know about it. RWR, not much use, but it has its purpose. Ray Dome, OP as always. Flares, pretty good, especially with their second reload. Metal Foam, it tries its best. Blast Plates, kind of a staple now. Fusion, still pretty on the high end.
I mean, if we get rid of blast plates, Anomaly will cry.
Yeah. Fusion's still pretty on the high end. Nate's taking a look at the... Let me bring it up, hold on. No, I can't find it, but he was looking at the multipliers for vanilla reactors versus fusion. And he seemed to have gotten it even for shield numbers now, so we'll see how that plays out in the, whatever his event's called. Test Tournament Season 3.5. Structural integrity. Alright, this kept me up until 5 a.m. before tournament night. This was fun. I don't think Chet has the time to maintain and test everything. So I had to whip up a rock-solid script from the depths of GG's repository. With perfect terminal syncing, perfect damage application, or resistance application, no power usage though. So I can re-engine the entire shield generator, or structural integrity generator. It's just a maintenance nightmare with Chet's old script because it's a bit complicated. And he's also away until like October 2nd.
Truly don't know why the new one was made.
It was supposed to be a rewrite to be better than the old one, because the old one was using some pretty sketchy, like, stuff, and also complaints of it just being brain dead, quote unquote.
Did it just not work well?
Um,
Because it seemed to work, and the brain deadness of using siege mode and stuff. Yeah, now it's brain dead. With removal of siege mode, but like if we can tweak the numbers on siege mode in the config he added, it just needed balancing, not replacing.
yeah, we'll see. You can take a look at the script I have in the SC defense blocks. It is a very simple self-contained script that's just and block, make a terminal action on the block, and then apply resist when the slider moves. That's it. I can do whatever I want from then. I was doing some crazy stuff in my single player world, like Dune shields, with like graphics and all that, but I decided, no, I'm not going to risk that. I don't know if this should be a high priority, or if Nate's not going to use it for his tournament. Yeah, Chet's gonna be away until October 2nd. And me just ripping out his brains and replacing them with something better. It's probably gonna be a bit rude. Also time consuming. But we have some backups. Alright. Thrusters returns at Season 3 point cost to better balance with the Fusion Thruster. The Fusion Thruster costs the same as the Hydro Thruster despite being infinitely better. Yeah, that focus lens could probably cost more, especially with its infinite scalability. Although I guess the innate cost of the network is factored in. I don't know. That is a Aristeas question. Why is SI even made into a modular system? Why was it? Because Chet wanted it to be more interesting than just a block that gives resist. But he did not prioritize the thing working in every single situation first. And there's also some weird conflicts, like with that RCS module, bricking the auto repair, which was a nightmare. God. Whatever, we'll get to it. Blink drives could use a lower cost, something like 350 to 400. Yeah, maybe. Fusion thrust is busted, but interesting to engineer. Recommend a harsher efficiency curve for thrusters or a much lower thrust per fusion energy. Also, the thrusters themselves should have wider thrust cones to prohibit from hiding behind laser armor and higher integrity to compensate. Maybe. Only changing the model empty, I think. Very knowing that fusion systems need to be large to be competitive with normal power, and in my opinion results in this small issue with insane shield numbers and regen. When people go ham with it. Make it equivalent or better than boosted reactors at 500 BP. Try to not make it go over, okay, so recommends a math equation. I don't keep up with the optimal BP to power ratio, but if boosted large reactors are 1.1, fusion is a lot more than that. Yes, I do remember that, Demon Fox. I demand more power options. 2 is not good enough. We need to make this more like my favorite Minecraft modpack, GregTech New Horizons. Based? Went from let him cook to completely cooked. I like the fusion system and how crunchy it is. Crunchy? Especially appreciate that it adds a layer of complexity and nuance that isn't about guns. That is the purpose. And also is entirely optional. Traditional reactors are perfectly viable, but if not better in certain ways. Fusion thrusters are a bit of an odd duck that can provide crazy thrust, but they also cost a lot when factoring in supporting systems. Thrust plume is narrow. Yeah, that's the integrity thing. All ironically very important because they have practically no integrity and tend to destroy themselves if your radiators get damaged. Do thrusters take heat damage if they, Huh. Alright. That is interesting. It's like sticking your fork in the outlet. Pretty good. Blast plates seem like a trap. When designing my core, when designing my core, I naturally felt inclined to put blast plates in front, but given how blasts go through them, it's kind of pointless because at the end of a match, your core is pretty much gone, but the blast plate survived. This may be an unsolvable issue. I don't know how it gets a giant component to not transfer damage. We'll see though. We really need to introduce a hard cap on the total number of weapons in StarCore. We'll get to that. Somewhere around 4 would be a good starting point. Don't murder LCDs. They've never been a problem and are great cosmetically. Yeah. Issue is LCDs are a lot of text. It's a big string to post those memes in the Monospace Unicode font, whatever it's called. So it is a cost, but is it worth removing Soul? We'll have to see. Keep up the good work and don't burn yourselves out. That's the idea. What's this? Now this is profound. Thank you, response. Very cool. Need to clear out unreliable subsystems and add them back when they don't slow down a TT. That is... Yep, I agree. Small kinetic weapons from CHP don't shoot, and none of the weapons in the back obey focus fire. Really? Huh. Alright. Do we have any questions in the audience? Or responses? If not, then I'll bring up my master plan slideshow. Stick out and thrust on the inside of your ship. Just needs a half block T-shape. Oh yeah, I have no idea. Definitely worth ticketing though. Anyway, 4.8, pretty good. Some long-standing issues that need to be ripped out and re-engined. That's what I'll get to in here. So, what are we doing for the rest of the year? Reduce the pain of playing this stupid game. Easy. So, I released this internally to the modders and the other team. Objective number 1. Have a fun rest of the season with as few hiccups as possible by December. It's been going longer than Season 3 now, although a lot less intermittent. Which is fine. Objective number 2. Make it easier to run tournaments, contribute to, and play the game. Objective number 3. Keep the side projects in mind. Very important, this one. Alright, so why has Season 4 sucked so far? Problem number 1. Backlog. We have an issue tracker now that helps us track issues. It keeps getting bigger. I am not good at delegating, which is, working as a team. Or saying, hey, I need this. I think it's right here, actually. Yep. Here's all the stuff. I even got them labeled code, config, or event. Nate, fix the Docker dossier. I'll classify that as a config. Yeah, I write this down whenever there's some weird stuff that I want to remember. And it's also in the Control F2 binding. Yep, very useful tool. So issues that crop up from not being able to, fix the issues lead to problems during events. Like, for example, the structural integrity generator on the original 4.8. So, hold on, I still got hiccups. Imagine being able to talk. Alright, so there are only a few programmers. This is true. Fact check, real. There are a decent amount of modders. And there's actually a pretty big gap between that. Because messing with the config is modding. But mod scripts are a whole different level of jank. More importantly though, there are even more players than modders. People who just want a Gorilla for God's sake, and play the shooty bang spaceship video game. So, the best way to find the issues here has been to just play the video game. Scrims. Where a bunch of players, modders, and programmers join every once in a while to fight it out. It's very useful for finding edge cases. If we had scrimmed once during that 3 weeks between 4.7 and 4.8, we would have found that structural integrity stuff. That torpedoed 4.8. Which is really annoying. Because it's a lot of work to, add to everyone in the chat and go, hey, let's scrim, wow, let's go. Yeah, also, we on the scrims on that Friday before, no one brought SI, I think. Yeah, that's also probably why the reverse. Oh yeah, we'll get that fixed. Is it fixed? Nope. Shit. Then we just forget about it. It's very useful for finding edge case bugs that can impact a tournament. So, delegation, that means, hey, your mod is broken. I need this fixed. It needs to be done properly. That is, making sure to keep up with a modder on a project. This is what I learned. I had no idea that this is how you're supposed to actually do it. So, when you want, someone to do something because it's a hobby, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go, hey, can you do this in 5 days? Because they're not going to do it. They're going to forget. You have to remind them saying, hey, do you need help? Do you need to do this? Or do you need help with doing this? I can do it if you don't have the time. I just keep up with them for every day or 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it falls back on priority. It never gets done. But that's fine, it's a hobby for a spaceship video game. Now, problem number 3, time. It is time consuming for programmers to find bugs. It's also not very fun. It's time consuming for modders to test weapons. Joining a match and starting a scrim is time consuming. So playing StarCore itself takes forever, especially on lower end hardware, where it takes 10 minutes for some people on a hard drive to load into a match. Technical issues that crop up cause delays. Scheduling becomes inconsistent because the game doesn't work. That's like a cascade of fuck.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we fix this? Spaghetti. So number 1, the backlog. All of these long-standing issues. In order to have a stable experience, we need to make it easy to contribute. Currently, the dev repository, which was just a completely separate thing for other people to go play around in, is unused because it's annoying to sync changes to and from. Image number 1. Yeah, so you have the dev repository and the live repository on the servers. We had a dev server and a live server, and it was annoying to move changes between because they weren't synced. And they had different Steam IDs, so if you copied the wrong folder, it would have overwritten that and uploaded to the wrong workshop item. That is annoying. There's a few ways around this, though. So, and I learned this from the Arma 3 Anti-Stasi workflows. How they have different branches that are separated by condition, like if this is a release being pushed, copy the repository and push that to every single other Steam Workshop item. This was smart. This is what I wanted to do in like 4.0, 4.1 when I said monthly releases. I just could not figure out how. But here we are, like 7 months later. And we can finally do this. Thanks to Airstays.
Okay.
Laying the groundwork for a upload script that actually is decent. So the way we do it from now is have one repository with 2 branches, and all of our changes on the dev branch are copied over in a release once a month or once every 2 weeks or something. And if there's any quick fixes we need, we're able to use the Git cherry pick feature, which allows us to surgically grab a fix and just apply it to another branch. And it shouldn't require too much in the way of retooling. Making a new branch on the official repository that creates a whole new set of workshop items. What do you mean by this? Because another bottleneck is manually uploading a new workshop item and adding the bot as a contributor. If that could be stuff like July Core, Potato Bowl can be 100% air gapped, huh? That would be cool. Not sure. Yeah, you needed me to log into the VM, didn't you? I'll do that after this. So yeah, if we can get this, the pain of having a dev and live branch and risking a push bricking an entire tournament drops hugely. And this is how an actual software company would do it. Probably. At least Minecraft modders. Addressing delegation contribution. Every time a mod is updated, there's a risk of something breaking, which is why we need to avoid doing it frequently. But how can fixes be pushed without frequent updates? And yeah, this is where I mentioned the Git cherry pick feature. So yeah. Everyone can finally have their own playground to upload whenever, on an actual dev server, and when we merge over, we just make a new release, and it even generates a nice big patch note of every pull request. We just have to have useful patch notes, or useful pull request titles. Which isn't too bad. That's how, people like TG Station does this. Or something similar. Some Space Station 13 server.
Got it.
Now, addressing time constraints. So, running a tournament takes forever, which is why we needed Tibbs to, like, handle all the paperwork in the background, but he's a lot busier nowadays, because he moved, and is off doing a bunch of other stuff in Star Citizen, which is fine. It's really annoying updating a bracket and a sign-up sheet. So, Aristeas, in his infinite programming knowledge, created a bot. His name is Botcore. Say hello.
Hi, Botcore.
So, StarCore is a hobby for its contributors, and as such cannot be treated like a full-time job, like Muzzle did. Complex mod scripts are hard to maintain in a constantly changing environment, so the tournament environment will change less. The amount of paperwork required will significantly reduce for hosting tournaments or events thanks to Aristeas. So, in the future, if Spartan wanted to do another Potato Bowl, he should be able to just type /create tournaments Potato Bowl and then the date in the Unix timestamp. And it'll make an event and ping everyone saying, hey, an event is starting, or an event sign up is due at this time in the announcement channel. And it should be just much easier for community events to happen.
Okay.
Also, add like a /scrim to in-game so you don't have to do the whole command. Just lots of little things that make it faster. Like the SC Auto implementation was huge. That saves like an hour of scrim setup time.
Really?
Yeah, I might also remove all the passwords on the servers so you don't have to type it in. But maybe not. We'll see. It's kind of reflexive nowadays after 4 years.
And everyone has admin access, so it's probably good to keep randos.
Yeah, probably the dev server will have no password.
Okay.
So, side projects, objective number 3. So, in October, which is either 1 to 2 weeks from now, maybe 3 weeks, depending on if Zoc materializes in our quantum realm or has to go around again. There will be an event, the Rings of Saturn Survival, using that dynamic asteroid mod I made. It'll be a team-based thing using the StarCore point system. And day 1, there should be like 30 to 50 players on that server.
Yeah. Nate does point out October is in 6 days.
Yes. The dates I were given was October 4th, 5th, or 12th. Which is... That's definitely a date range. So I'll plan early and expect late.
2 to 3 weeks.
So, yeah, that's what I've been working on in the background. You've seen pull requests from a bunch of other repositories I have open.
Mm-hmm.
And The Last Bastion recently kind of joined us, quote unquote, although they're doing their own thing. They're making a tank game mode,
Cool.
like a Battlefield style um, vehicle combat event with a bunch of objectives and building and some neat custom mods like they have like a drive shaft system that uses a renamed vanilla hydrogen gas that's called quote unquote mechanical power, and they have a adapter to the wheel suspension that supplies it quote unquote with power. It's pretty funny, and it'll be a lot of fun, I think. This should be later October, November, maybe. Not sure when Bobbert is around, or Gage.
You can also add to side projects for myself. An early alpha. Don't know if I'm really supposed to talk about it. Warhammer survival server that I'm continuing to make mods for. That some people are organizing
Huh.
in the background. It's like a closed Discord server of like 10 modders right now, but
Alright, that should be fun.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking objective survival gameplay. As in, like, survival with an objective. You know, an event that
Yeah.
lasts a week or a month. Is the optimal video game. It's also a lot of good free advertising.
Right.
Now, those are the events. Now the mods. So, Orrery Combat Framework. This was mentioned earlier in the year. It got like most of the way there, then it kind of stalled once other things came up. Modular Assemblies, though, is basically complete. This is what we use for Fusion. Very, very nice framework. I gotta make more mods for it.
Yeah. A Fusion, or even entirely separated from Fusion, modular weapon, just to showcase it, even if it's not in StarCore, I think would be a neat showcase of the mod.
Yep. Hey, I mean, if I need to do a rewrite of the structural integrity field generator for Jet, I could use this if you want upgrade modules on it.
Right.
Making models takes a long time, that's true.
It does. That's true.
Yep. Especially when you can't model, like me. But even if in a year all we get is modular assemblies, I think that's more than enough. Because it's basically all we need to turn space engineers into From the Depths. And that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Hans Wiseman. Hello. Welcome to the slideshow. Alright, now the timeline for the rest of the year. September. About to finish that. We did 4.8. Nate's event this weekend. Deployment of the bot, which is already done. Return of the dev branch and a less painful workflow. And the dev server and all that. October. Do 4.9. Another Nate event if he wants to do it. The Rings of Saturn survival thing, which is one of the side projects. That'll be with Zoc. That should be pretty fun. TLB's Modern Warfare may also be here. I'll have to talk with Barbert. May also be in November. November. The World Still Exists. Test Tournament 4.10. And with the bot, it should be a lot easier for the community to set up events, test tournaments. We'll prepare for a GT4, and maybe even do a GT4. I really like the Swiss system that we did for 4.8. If we can get 2 people on that, it would allow us to have a grand tournament that's not just a single limb and people get kicked out of. December. This will be our buffer zone. Extra time for the grand tournament if needed. Maybe more community events, and we'll see.
Yeah, it is the holiday season. We have to be aware of that and try to pick time frames that are
Reasonable.
ideally most open.
Yep.
I'd love to run like pod racing again or something.
Pod racing, that's cool.
That was fun. But I'd have to bother climb more about the rope mod.
We'll see what
And I
Gage's
say
grapple
bother
up can do.
because that's the vibe I was getting from him.
That's a cool idea, Wiseman. I remember we played a demo of a pod racing game that came out recently. I think you'd like this too, Darth. Let me find it.
Oh.
It was like hell something.
Oh, I have dreamt up the idea of a red line racing scenario where it's just like
Like
stupid
Dakar?
speed explosions and weapons and environmental dangers.
Here it is. And yep, the demo's there. Yeah, Pod Racers. Go check out that game for inspiration. It has a demo. It's very good.
I will.
And yeah, I think that's it for the plans. Are there any questions or suggestions?
Tate is here.
Right, one more
Did we
thing.
want
Um,
did we want to talk about slimming the
yeah, that.
weapon field?
So depending on how Nate's event goes, if his list is looking reasonable, we'll slim it down for the GT, or for not the GT, for the rest of the year, basically. So stuff is not changing constantly. To a list of like 40 to 60 weapons. Max like 70. We pick the best of the best, what people like the most, and we stick with it for the next few months. And the grand tournament, maybe we'll swap some things in or out. So that's either going to be a curated list, which we'll need to make like a Star Core highlights mod pack to save on file size or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or we pick 4 to 6 of the corporations that were set up on the point sheet.
Like I know that we talked about the idea that perhaps we cut out some of the new mod packs that have been added that just added bloat. Like including accepting my own is a part of that, and then just creating a like cameos mod pack that's just
Yeah, we're not going to cut them
one or
out.
two things.
We're not cutting them
I would
out.
be
They're
happy
going to be on a
enough.
branch.
I would be happy enough if 40K wasn't in the rest of season 4, so long as like just the Nova cannon or just the macro cannon stayed in, or whatever.
Yeah, first to go, anyways, is going to be the Consti Homeworld pack. That one could just probably slide off for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
We'll get into a dev branch. Maybe we'll keep 1 or 2 hangers. If we can salvage some fighter functionality. but they're going to be low priority. And it'll save us like 900 megabytes of file size.
We already have a StarCore version of my 40K pack. Since I have a separate workshop version, I have already taken all of like the small grid and unused stuff out of the StarCore version to save on file size. So taking out more of it wouldn't be the end of the world.
Yeah, and actually, I think I'll put up a poll for what we want to do. That's what Max suggested.
Mm-hmm.
I made that new channel, then forgot about it.
And then finally, we have to, at some point, try to do collaboration with content creators, inviting them to come check out what we're doing and play our game mode, and everything has to work for that to happen. And
Oh, yeah.
so if we slim down, if we figure out what the fuck is wrong with SI and auto repair and
Oh, auto
suddenly we
repair's fine
run
now.
an event and don't have crash, well, it wasn't.
Yep.
Is my point. Like,
Thankfully, in
if we get
4.8, everything did work except fighters.
yeah, if we slim the field, figure out the dev branching, and actually get something that we can be confident and sure will work if we show it off to someone else who we're trying to impress, then at that point I think it's worth, like, instead of dangling the promise of, hey Zoc, you can come back at any time, we actually reach out to Zoc and be like, hey, would you like to help commentate alongside me hosting this specific one on this specific day, for example, for just Zoc, but reaching out to other smaller or larger content creators, whether they are primarily or tertiarily associated with space engineers, and just see who bites and get our best foot forward out there more.
Yeah, sounds good.
Has to happen eventually. Before we get to GT 4 or past GT 4, and we have 6 teams sign up for it and all of them need subs, right?
Right. Yeah, should be good.
Like, we're getting new players, and the new players who are neurodivergent enough to dive headfirst into our complex systems enjoy it still, is the evidence that I've seen recently. StarCore is still, in its fundamentals, super fun. And when Nate and I joined after seeing the one Captain Shack video and started slapping down all the modded turrets and test firing them and oohing and eyeing and making ships from IPs we liked, that shit's still here.
Yep. That is the Soul TM. Yeah, now that we have controlled environment, Keen's probably going to release their next update right when we're getting started. I bet they are. They always do.
Right. It's gonna be sometime in October, probably. The way they've been ramping up showcase teasers and stuff.
Yep.
And I have a feeling that this update in particular will bring some activity back to Space Engineers, unlike some of these other updates, which have been like, oh, that's a neat few blocks for those of us who are still paying attention to Space Engineers and playing on whatever servers we're on.
Oh, yeah.
This one is like, ooh, new fucking gameplay, not
There's
new
going to
blocks.
be gameplay. Wow, PvE gaming. They announced.
Wow.
Wow.
Goodness. So, like, whether or not it ends up being good, it will draw attention back to the game from people who have just been keeping it on their periphery, I feel like.
Yep. Let me log into this VM. Yeah. Any other additions?
Yeah, I mean, Squid, that's how I feel about it too. Like, I put a lot of effort into the Warhammer mod, but I guess at least for me now it's uploaded to the workshop. But
Yeah, Nate's
yeah,
gonna have his events, are gonna revert some of the more outlandish things if needed.
for Tate, for Anomaly, for myself, even Nate with Mid and Flaw, like there's a lot of people's work in Starcore that it might feel bad to cut, but that's if we need to cut
It's
to
not
make the
being
list
cut.
readable.
It's going on a different branch, and are gonna select it the best.
Yeah, you know what I mean by cut.
Easy. Now, which email was this?
I thought I'd never get up here. All right. So I have cut a bunch of guns from not cut, but like limited down, hashed out, left out. I guess left out a bunch of guns from a bunch of the older packs and newer packs and packs in general. Um, like I think only 4 or 5 from MA. There was 3. Now I think there's like 4 from SA, which each of those packs are like 10 guns, so it's down 60%. And I'm pretty sure most people won't notice a lot of the guns being gone because they were like usually only one person's kind of gun. One person kind of brought them. They don't show up anymore. Gun
Yeah, I
hasn't
mean,
been taken in 3 tournaments.
there's
Yeah.
so many guns and so few people that
There's
there are some guns that are like these are passable, these are fine, these are balanced, but they're just someone's pet gun and they're the person who brings it.
there are like
And it otherwise doesn't get
142 or 146 different weapons. There's like almost 500 entries on the fucking Daka dossier. I can't quite keep up. I mean, if we count different ammos and stuff, it's quite a lot. I haven't been able to keep up. I go look at the docket here, and then I immediately find myself doing like anything else, anything different. So that's eventually what kind of spurred me into doing this smaller project.
Wiseman, no.
We could do that, Demon Fox, or I could take a cut of like, okay, this is kinetic, this is energy, this is kind of like make a more balanced thing, and then we can cut it down really far, then maybe add in a few select guns using that kind of poll. Like people vote and we add like 1 gun or 2 guns after each test tournament, but not like. Well, I mean, I didn't even know the CH pack was really in until the Friday before the test tournament for 4.8. I was like, oh shit, what are all these? It's quite a lot more guns.
If we're wrapping up soon, I'm gonna ping people for scrims for the rest of the night.
Yeah, I'll end the stream. Pretty good.